Well, good morning, everybody. What a joy it is to be here. I was in the Air Force for several years, and we had a thing there that whenever anybody got up to speak in front of a group, that they would acknowledge that everybody gets butterflies. That's a normal response to a public speaking engagement. The trick is to get the butterflies to fly in formation. Okay. So I'm working on that right now. Okay. I want to thank two people. One is Ted for arranging for me to do this today. We've had several good chats, and he's been gracious enough to say, yeah, come on over and give us some words on this subject, because it is so much of a part of everybody's life. And the other guy I want to thank is Mr. Cousins over there, Jim Cousins, who has been a close friend and fellow journeyman with me and several others in a Bible study, which I have been privileged and blessed beyond words to lead for, would you believe, the last 10 and a half years. We're still going strong. And Jim has been a dynamic, fantastic part of that. And Jim said to me one day, hey, there's a group of guys that meet on Saturday mornings. You might just see what's going on there. And this was back in September. And I took his advice. And now Saturday mornings start with this group. That's part of the regiment. I never thought as I was working that I would sleep in. I always thought I would sleep in on Saturday mornings, but that's changed. You know, this is a topic that's heavy. It's a tough, but definite part of all of our lives. Jesus said, you will have troubles. Not if you have them, you will have them. And so we do. And the longer you live, the more losses you experience. That's just part of living. So what I want to do is encourage us a little bit. I'm going to do that at the beginning, and I'm going to do it at the end. And I'm going to do it with my little Passion Bible. Passion Bible translation's only been around about 4 years, but I love it. It's got some dynamic, wonderful wording, and it just stimulates me. By the way, before I read this, I came to this Bible because of Greg Olson. Greg Olson, founder and inspirational leader of Life Discovery Ministry, which is what I'm a part of. When I told Greg several weeks ago that I was going to do this, he said, oh, great. I want to be there. I want to hear what you have to say. It's wonderful. What an opportunity. Well, he's here, and he's listening to this. Unfortunately, you won't be able to meet him because 10 days ago, Greg went to be with his Lord. After a fight of many years of various health issues, his body just gave out. So he is listening. I'm very conscious of his prayers and his support at this moment. So let me start with Philippians 4, chapter you're all familiar with. The wording may be a little bit different, but hang in there with me. I love it. Be cheerful with joy celebration in every season of life. Let joy overflow, for you are united with the Anointed One. Don't be pulled in different directions or worried about a thing. Be saturated in prayer throughout each day, offering your faith-filled requests before God with overflowing gratitude. Tell him every detail of your life. Then God's wonderful peace that transcends human understanding will bring the answers to you through Jesus Christ. Is that a great promise or what? We have a God who wants to walk with us every step of the way, through every valley as well as every mountain. And he promises to be there each and every day with us. That's an enormous advantage, a comfort beyond words for us. You know, Rick Warren is a pastor of a large church in California, author, speaker. He's a great guy. He said he used to think that life was was a series of ups and downs. You were up, things were going well, relationships, job, health was good, kids are behaving themselves for the most part, and life is moving along. And then things began to fall apart a little bit, and maybe it's health, maybe it's a loved one having a problem, whatever. Worries begin to pile up, and you experience a downturn. He said, I don't think that's the way life works anymore. It's more like two railroad tracks going into the distance, parallel tracks. On one, we have a list we could make that's rather long of all the blessings we have in life. All those things for which we are so thankful. And on the other, the things that make it heavy, the losses, the pain, the fears, the uncertainty about the future, the loss of hope, depression, whatever. Both of those are part of our lives every day. Today we're going to talk about that section of our lives a little bit more, the heavy parts, because as Shah just said, it is part of everybody's life. And the longer you live, Jesus' words come to mind over and over. Yes, you will have troubles. I enjoyed so much last week our time with John Eldridge with his video, and then the small groups that met afterwards. And I went home and I was looking through this booklet that we were given, and one of his quotes jumped out at me. He says, "A wound that goes unacknowledged and unwept is a wound that cannot heal." Unacknowledged and unwept, the mind and the emotions, which are not acknowledged, cannot heal. Shah was right. We don't do very well with emotions. Men tend to push them down, cover them up, substitute busyness, work. I'll get to it later. I don't want to deal with that. Tears are things that men tend to run from. Deep emotions are alien to us in so many ways. We had a woman in one of our seminars who began to cry at one point, and immediately she did what so many people do. She apologized. She said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get upset like that." And I'll never forget what Greg told her. He said, "I will accept that apology if you will also apologize every time you laugh." Because both of those are deep emotions from the heart that reveal what's going on inside of you. They are feelings that cannot be denied, should not be denied, should not be smothered, or they cannot heal. The emotion of pain and fear and worry and deep sorrow needs an outlet. And part of that outlet is to express it in the natural way the body does, with tears. I'm not going to dwell on that very much, but I thought John Eldridge's comment was so right on. Acknowledged in our head and wept at a level that needs to be outlet. I want to tell you my story briefly. 6 years ago, I was one angry guy. I was in a situation where my wife had a chronic illness. We had been to infinite numbers of doctors. She was taking piles of pills every day. We had been to seminars. And all those people were trying to help, but nobody could. Her decline was steady and very observable. It was so painful to watch her struggle more and more each day with things that you and I take for granted. I was getting more and more frustrated. There didn't seem to be anything that could be done for her. And I had a box seat to watch this taking place. And so I was manifesting that discouragement by getting angry, by getting grouchy, by being in a foul mood. I had gotten a clear message from the Lord saying, look, I need you, you're my man, to take care of her now, to make her life as pleasant and pain-free as possible. And I think I was doing a pretty good job of that. She was in her 15th year of Parkinson's at that point. Except for one area. I was getting mad more and more. My mood wasn't good. I was punching the wall, literally. And that hurts because the wall always won in that kind of a battle, okay? And it was ruining my golf game as well, my dad. I explained to her numerous times, look, I'm not mad at you at all. It's not you, it's the disease, and I'm frustrated. A friend of mine says, I suggest you get a hold of Greg Olson. He's a wonderful guy. I didn't know him. After several meetings, he convinced me to take part as a participant in one of the Healing from Loss seminars, which I did. And I want to tell you here that I came out of that 10-week experience a different person in significant ways. I learned why I was getting so angry, what was going on inside of me, and how to handle that so much better. I think from then on, and my wife isn't here to confirm this, but I think I really began to be a much better caregiver at that point, with patience and understanding, not only of her, but of me, the journey within. We had talked here about last week with John Eldridge about men and their characteristics, and one of the things that I remember was the word adventure. Men love adventures, okay, of all kinds. That's what we do, and they're fun. They might entail some risk. But they're different, and they stretch us, and so on. He's right. He's right. And I began to think about myself, and I shared with one of the small groups last week. Two adventures. Well, one adventure I shared, and another one just came up a few days ago. My youngest son is now in his 28th year of active duty with the Navy. Much of that has been in the submarine corps. Several years ago, he called me and he said, Dad, if you can get down here to Pearl Harbor, I'll take you on a 24-hour cruise on the submarine. He was the captain of the submarine. He had been selected to skipper one of Uncle Sam's, literally one of his first few submarines in the newer class range. I went, and did I have a good time at that adventure? Seeing this magnificent vessel with these highly trained young men running it, and my son as the captain, I couldn't describe in words what that was all about. But that was an adventure I will remember to my dying day. And my oldest son just called me 3 days ago, and he said, Dad, he lives in South Carolina. He said, Dad, I just got 4 tickets to the Masters tournament. Now, for those of you who played in the golf tournament last weekend, for others who are familiar with it, the Masters is kind of the top of the heap as far as spectator sports and the world of golf. So 2 months from now, I'll be heading for Augusta to take in the Masters. And I would love to sit and listen to your adventures. We all have adventures, and it would be fun to hear them. And hopefully over the course of many months here, we will. But I want to challenge you this morning. I want to challenge you to take an adventure that is far more important than riding on a submarine or climbing a mountain or whatever yours is. It has much more positive implications for your life now and for however many years you're going to live. It's the adventure within. Discovering who you are. What are your gifts? Who are you? How can you use what God has put in you? And every one of you has a unique set of these gifts. How can you use them for His glory and for the benefit of others? That, gentlemen, is what joy is all about. Happiness and sadness go up and down depending on circumstances. Joy is a relationship with Jesus Christ and a walk closely with Him each day. That's joy. What is healing from loss? Healing from loss is it's essentially a 10-week seminar in which we take a journey of healing and wholeness to you. It is not grief recovery. It is not a grief group. Some people term it grief recovery, but that's misleading because we don't recover from grief. We never get over it. It becomes a part of our lives. We're forever changed by deep loss and grief. We learn through this seminar to take a series of steps that allow us to express our grief, to come to terms with the impact it has on our lives, and then to integrate those losses into our life so we can move forward with a sense of hope and a sense of purpose. I want to read to you just a few sentences here about the seminar, which will give you a little bit more feel for it. I have a number of these flyers out there that you can pick up on the way out, which give you a good explanation of what it is, and announce to you that the next one starts on March the 5th, actually. Healing from Loss is not a support group. Instead, it provides a focused, Christ-centered action plan that includes reading, personal reflection, weekly small group participation, and homework designed to help you take part in your own healing journey to reclaim your life. Now, if that sounds like an awfully big menu that it purports to fulfill, I will tell you that I came out of my seminar as a participant with a sense of, wow, I feel so much lighter on my feet. I have a better sense of who I am and where I'm going. And I looked at the people around me who also went through it at the same time, and I said, look at them. I saw them come in, and now I'm seeing them in a far better place in their lives. I want to be a part of that. One of the things I didn't put on my little biography that Shah read is that for the last 6 years, I've been a facilitator in this program, helping people go through the process of these 10 weeks and guiding them in their own discovery of who they are and where they want to go, incorporating these terrible losses in their lives at the same time, but having a whole different perspective on it. It's a process that that's structured very much like here. We have a teaching period, and then there is a small group session that follows. The difference is the small group you are in is composed of 3 participants, 2 facilitators, and it stays the same through the 10 weeks. You don't change groups every week. So an atmosphere is created of trust and warmth and confidentiality. It's like, finally, I can be myself. I don't have to pretend. You know, the typical greetings at church or elsewhere that you get, the exchange that occurs. How you doing? I'm fine. I'm good. How you doing? I'm fine too. Great. See you next week. We're not fine. We're suffering a lot of times. We got stuff that we really would love to have somebody sit quietly and listen to. And that's what happens. There's no critiquing. There's no advice giving. We are guiding the people to discover themselves what's going on here. No psychoanalysis or anything like that. It's a simple process with profound results. I've seen it in hundreds of cases over the years. In fact, everybody who has taken the seminar has experienced healing. Some of it, extraordinary amounts of healing. Others, not quite as much. Depends on how much work you want to do and the personal circumstances. But it's always resulted in healing. That's the joy I get from it. A few important topics, and I'll do these quickly because this clock is looking at me. Self-talk, the critical aspect of self-talk. You and I talk to ourselves thousands and thousands of words every day. We're not crazy. It's just part of what we do. You assess situations, individuals, what's happening in your life, and so on. People who do research in this area tell us, though, that 3/4 of your self-talk is negative in the average person. Criticism of yourself, of others, circumstances, the future, depression, whatever. How do you get away from that? How do you turn it around to where 2/3 is positive? That's critical to your mood, to your relationships, how you come and go, to your outlook on life, etc. Anger. Nobody makes you angry. You choose to be angry based on what's going on inside of you. How you react to people and situations is a choice. You need to identify what's happening. My anger with my wife's situation had to do with my fear of the future. The devil was saying to me, oh, this is hard now? You don't like this? Wait till you see what I have in store for you next year. Okay. That was the kind of self-talk that was going on. And that gets to you very shortly. And pretty soon it affects your whole mood and your whole life. Got to stop it. Forgiveness. We could spend the next few hours on the whole thing about forgiveness. Forgiveness of another is a choice. It's not an emotion. You choose to forgive, even though you don't feel like it. Because this person didn't deserve forgiveness. They really hurt you or someone you love. Do you know what? Christ went to the cross to forgive you when you didn't deserve it. And so we are called to forgive one another. If you lack forgiveness, it's like carrying a bag of rocks on your back. You are choosing to go through life with that weight because you cannot forgive. When you can't forgive, you are rehearsing the whole wrong that's been done to you all over again and again and again. And every time your BP goes up, your depression increases, your anger increases, everything negative starts happening in you. Whereas the person who did the wrong is off having their life. Doesn't affect them at all. You may have to forgive 50 times before the feelings begin to follow. They will eventually. But you need to keep going. What did Christ say? 70 times 7? Okay. Well, it may happen that way. But every time you say, I am choosing to forgive, you are lightening that bag of rocks that you're carrying around. It's a big topic. Abuse, physical, sexual, emotional abuse, devastating in any relationship. You can literally kill someone with abuse by heaping shame and guilt on them incessantly. No let up. And pretty soon, they're crushed. They begin to believe it. You know the old saying, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me? Baloney. It's totally false. Words can kill. Can kill a personality, can kill a person physically. And finally, listening. You know, God really did send us a message when he gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. You learn by listening. And listening entails more than just your ears. Listening includes your eyes and your whole observation of the other person. One example, we had a guy in my small group a couple years ago who was assuring us in many words that his painful, terrible divorce, the loss he felt there, that made him angry and just upside down, he was over. He was cool now. He had forgiven his wife. He's not mad at her anymore. It was going well. While he was telling us this tale, he was sitting there with one of these cheap little pens in his hand, and he was doing this with the pen. And by the time he was finished assuring us that all was well with him, that his anger was gone, that pen looked like a pretzel. His body language, this was an outrageous example, but his body language belied what he was saying to us. He wasn't rid of the madness, the anger. It was eating him up inside. He just was denying it. So listening involves a whole lot more than just the ears. Look, guys, life is tough. We get blindsided. We get hit with terrible loss, and it's like we're going this way, and we have to go that way. And everything's changed. The perspective, the horizon looks differently to us. Loss and pain hit us all too regularly. Some of it we get over quickly, and it isn't long-lasting. Others we never forget, and we don't ever get over them. But there are ways of dealing with it. God is the only one who can truly heal us, but we get to help. We get to help each other. That's why it's important to have fellowship in a group like this. I want to be conscious of the time, and so far, that's only worked partly. I want to leave time for the small groups. My card and that brochure is in the back. I would love to talk to you at any point and give you more information about these things. There's no cost to them, by the way. It's a donation, whatever you can afford. I want to read to you a little bit from Ephesians 3. After my wife died, I began to look at some things in the Bible, look at a lot of things more seriously in the Bible. Before my head hits the pillow at night, I read 2 passages, the one I read to you before and this one. And it's a good way to go to bed. It's a good way to start the day, too. Try to get into this description here. By the way, both this letter, Ephesians and Philippians, was written as Paul was housed in a rotten Roman jail. And here are the words he says. By constantly using your faith, the life of Christ will be released deep inside you, and the resting place of his love will become the very source and root of your life. Never doubt God's mighty power to work in you and accomplish all this. He will achieve infinitely more than your greatest request, your most unbelievable dream, and exceed your wildest imagination. He will outdo them all, for his miraculous power constantly energizes you. Is that fantastic? I mean, what a promise. But notice the key: by constantly using your faith. Who am I? What has God put in me? And how can I use it? That's the key. Overcoming whatever heavy things in life may be burdening you at the moment, knowing he walks with you each and every day, and that there are helps available to you within reach with each of us. That's pretty good. We were not meant to travel this life alone. We were meant to be in community. That's why Paul and Jesus made such a big deal out of community. Stay together, love and support one another. I once engaged in a Bible study called the One Another's. All the one another's that Paul talks about in Thessalonians and elsewhere, about how we ought to act in community with each other. Well, that's it, guys. I want to thank you for your attention, and it's an area where God has put us on this earth to support one another throughout our lives. Thank you.